Motorfest, Walk of
The
Fame.
Goatman's story
It's the
does not
place to
end in the
be if you
past.
really want to become a
It
Motorfest
continues
legend.
to this very
Each month is a
day.
chance for your name to be
The
marked
stories
on
began
the
as
stars.
whispers, then screams.
Here's the
Teenagers
Motorfest
dared
legend of
each
last
other to
month.
visit at midnight.
This
Couples
month,
parked
a new
nearby,
legend rises
only
to
to
the
flee in
challenge.
terror. Paranormal investigators brought their cameras, their meters, their courage, and still, they too ran.
Our journey is now taking us to my home, Great Britain. When you think of British style, you probably picture well-dressed ladies and gentlemen, brimming with class and confidence.
Some report
Well,
seeing a tall,
our
muscular
cars and
figure
motorcycles are
covered
very
in dark
different.
fur
They don't
with
seem
long,
obvious,
twisted
but
horns.
artistry.
Others
Never
described
excess,
glowing red eyes
only
staring
grace.
from the tree line. Visitors
And
hear
to
phantom
elaborate on
hoofbeats
this,
clattering
please
across
meet
the wooden
a friend of
bridge,
mine.
Well,
sometimes
triumphs are all
fast,
about detail,
sometimes slow,
attention to detail.
as if
They're beautifully
something
designed,
is
and
stalking
we
them.
put a lot of effort into
Unseen hands
hiding all
tug
the
at
things you
clothing,
don't need to see,
claw
but making
marks
everything you
appear
can
on
see look
backs,
absolutely beautiful.
and hair
I
stands
think
up on end.
Triumph riders
Breaths
really
have even been known
value
to
the
fall
character
in the
that
summer
we deliver in the
heat.
bikes.
One
Characters
woman
really
said she heard her name whispered in her ear, only to turn and find no one behind her. Another man found his phone camera disabled when he tried to record, and when he finally left, his footage was overwritten by static. Multiple EVPs, otherwise known as electronic voice phenomena, and what they've captured is disturbing. From growling voices saying, "Come back," to crying children, to women sobbing, and even what has sounded like a goat screaming in agony. There are many rituals to supposedly summon the goat man, but this is one of the most infamous. Upon visiting the bridge, one must knock 3 times on the steel rails, say his name, and then wait. Some say the air changes, the temperature drops. Others say nothing happens at all until they're home. One teen reported seeing hoof prints in her driveway the next morning. Another said she was followed by a horned shadow for weeks. She'd wake up screaming. Scratches also appeared on her arms. Paranormal teams have experienced battery drains, unexplained interference, and equipment malfunctions. Some refuse to return after what they saw. There is another entity that has been seen at the bridge as well. Certainly, at this point, a lesser known figure. The woman in white, as she is called, is a translucent figure that is sometimes seen crying beside the bridge. Some say that she's watched for its while, still searching for her lost children, for all of eternity. When approached, she disappears, or worse, she screams in your face. And then there are the missing visitors who have vanished. Cars have been found empty there, phones that have been left recording, but with no sign of their owners.
It's like it never happened.
That stop in the middle of the bridge. Whether goatman or a ghost, something lurks there, and this something does not want to be disturbed. While the legend terrifies, real events near the bridge have raised deeper concerns. In 2018, a 17-year-old named Lamont Christian was found dead on the bridge. The official report was accidental drowning, but many in the community weren't exactly convinced. The case drew media attention, with some pointing to the bridge's history of violence. 2023, another man, Alan Wilson, was found shot to death in the gravel lot near the bridge. His murder remains unsolved. To many, these modern tragedies echo the past. Whether supernatural or symbolic, the bridge has become a place where death lingers, and yet people still come. Paranormal TV shows like Ghost Adventures and BuzzFeed Unsolved have featured the bridge, with some of their team members leaving shaken, leaving with voices captured on tape, and figures seen in the shadows, and the feeling of a heavy presence pressing down on their chests. Ghost tours now include the bridge on their nightly routes, and locals warn not to go there alone. And fair warning, it seems as though local authorities have increased their patrols of the area, especially around Halloween. Despite or because of its reputation, Goatman's Bridge has become one of the most haunted locations in Texas. And allegedly, the Goatman is more active than ever. So what is the Goatman? A tormented spirit? A vengeful ghost? A demon summoned by occult rituals? Some believe that it could be a tulpa, or a manifestation of belief
Back
itself,
to where we left off.
shaped by decades of fear and storytelling. Others think it's a warning left by the past, a reminder of atrocities that must not be forgotten. Local legends say the Goatman only harms those who come with hate in their hearts, that his vengeance is specific, targeted, and moral. Others believe that he or it has no rules, only rage. But whether rooted in justice, voodoo, or hell itself, the Goatman is allegedly more than myth. It is a presence, a predator, a protector, and it is watching. So now that you know the supposed truth, would you cross the bridge? Would you knock 3 times? Would you speak his name? Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed this exploration into real-life horror, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you visited Goatman's Bridge? If so, what did you see? How did it make you feel? And if you do ever find yourself in Denton County, think twice before stepping onto that bridge, because the Goatman just might be watching.
Not all probiotics are made the same. CS1 helps you move more and flow less. The 24-free and probiotic strains are
Our next
clinically
stop,
proven to promote regularity and reduce
Pack is
bloating in
waiting
as
for you
little
there,
as 2
and it's
months.
ready to
Many
show you
probiotics
some more of the
dissolve
racing
before reaching
culture.
the gut. GSO1 has a 2-in-1 nested capsule design that makes it to your colon where it is the most effective. So you can feel free from what's weighing you down. Imagine eating your favorite meals without worry, hearing what you want with confidence, and feeling lighter in every single day. GSO1 is designed with strength to target the root cause of bloating and constipation for relief that lasts, powered by science. Bring back balance to your gut and life. Try GSO1 today.
Let's get fiscal. Lesson 2, credit card
London
combat.
Sen.
Getting your
Also
finances
called
together,
Tokyo
learn to
Bay
plan for
Showroom,
your money
or
with Credit Karma
BB.
today for a
It's a
stronger
famous
tomorrow.
stretch of highway to
Defend
visit
yourself against
places.
generic advice and
Almost
one-size-fits-all
every racer in the
recommendations.
80s and
Credit Karma
90s
gathers
knows about
offers from
it.
trusted partners, helping you quickly pin down the cards and loans that are right for you so you can build those money muscles. Harness the power of Credit Karma today to win your financial future tomorrow.
As always, guys, I appreciate you. I tried a little bit of a different approach on this video. So if you enjoyed it, definitely leave it a like, subscribe, and share it around. All those things help me out tremendously. And if you'd like to further support the channel, consider becoming becoming a patron over on Patreon or a channel member, and you'll get some extra content as well as all my content ad-free either way. And or you can check out my store where I sell my books and merchandise shown here. And I'll also link these down below in the description. I always appreciate your guys' patience and support. I know sometimes it takes me a while to get content out, but there's just a lot of stuff going on in the background, and I know you guys understand, and for that I am truly grateful. But we're here, we're back at it, we're pushing forward. So just so you know, I'm doing decent, we're working through the chaos. But yeah, if there is a story that you'd like covered that I haven't covered yet, also definitely let me know down below in the comments. I did also want to give a big shout out to Jason who requested this video and or topic. I hope I did the story justice, my friend. And thank you for not only watching, but for taking the time. I can't remember exactly if you recommended go in for each of the comments or the Discord or both. But yeah, either way, thank you. And speaking of Discord, you guys should definitely join if you haven't already. It is completely free, and I'll put the link on the screen now, as well as in the description. There you can talk to me and other members of this wonderful community. Yeah, we always have a great time, so you should hop in there. This is Big Cody here, the Street Archives. Remember to please stay safe out there. Go in, demons, and, well, anything that really goes bump in the night. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Searching for the ideal place to settle, a young family moves into a new home, believing their prayers have been answered. However, just a year later, they find themselves gone, never to return. They are left questioning just who truly answered those prayers and what exactly invaded their lives. An enigmatic entity that perpetrated violence and terror upon them. The untold story of the Black Monk of Pontefract.
Aloha e nā hoa. My name is Keola Nakahiki Raposo. You think you can remember that? Easy, bro. No worries. You can just call me Keola. I was told that you needed someone to show you around. I'm more than happy to share a story or two along the way.
In September 1954, Bill Farah and his wife Barbara moved into a new home in the historic market town of Pontefract, England.
You might want to take some pictures of these places,
with
yeah?
a 2-year-old daughter
No worries.
named Jane.
I asked Motorfest to take
At
some pics
30
for you.
East Drive,
Just crew
with its
and
3
enjoy the ride.
bedrooms, it should have been their ideal home. Yet less than a year later, they moved out. The Farahs quickly had grown terrified of their new home. Their dream had seemingly become a nightmare. Objects moved on their own. Voices echoed in empty rooms and halls, and large rips and tears appeared on their
Wow, the
furniture
design on this
out
van,
of nowhere,
that's the kind style.
forming an
He's
ominous
a local street
atmosphere.
artist that
began
always
to
sets the
smell
mood for the sandy beach over there.
These events would culminate one night when Bill and Barbara found their daughter crying. Her
Save the
small
board.
face
Catch some
inexplicably
waves
covered
there,
in
on the North
scratches. Small
The
trickles of
biggest
blood
waves.
dripping
For
from
now,
each slash,
enjoy the landscape.
with no
Take a look
rational
at that island
cause.
over there.
The
That's
family had no pets to blame for their daughter Jane's injuries.
Wow.
And even after they placed cottonwoods in her hands, wounds continued to appear. The poor child cried every night, leaving her parents scared and confused about what to do.
Or the
And just
Hawaiian
what could be
Archipelago
happening.
was said to be pulled up by
One
the
day,
magical hook
Barbara
of money.
frantically rushed upstairs at the piercing sound of her child's cries. But she discovered
That's what my kupuna
was
told me.
shaken
You
to
can
her
believe it or
core.
not.
She would find a pillow placed over Jane's face, as if someone or something was attempting to extinguish her young life. At that moment, the answer became clear. The family had to leave, and leave immediately. So they did. They would leave the house and its dark forces. Friends and neighbors of the Pharaohs, the Pritchard family, be convinced by the Pharaoh family to switch homes with them, ultimately leaving them at the mercy of whatever malevolent forces that dwelt within the walls. August 1966. The Pritchards would move into the old Pharaoh residence.
An
Their new
epic
home
hotel,
was quite a bit larger
unfortunately
than their
destroyed by a
last,
hurricane.
and seemed to be the answer
The
to their
palm trees that
prayers.
line the road is pretty
The Pritchard
cool.
family consisted
Preps you
of
for
Father
first
Joe,
hit.
Mother Jean, and their small children, daughter Diane, and son Philip. Shortly after moving in, however, the same strange occurrences began to manifest. Strange sounds, such as banging and knocking, began to be heard, reverberating throughout the house, with no rational origin. Horrid smells began to waft throughout the house as well, again with no explanation as to what could be causing them. The children first, then the parents, began to be terrified by a shadowy, dark figure that began to make its presence known at various hours of the day and night, seemingly watching their every move. Jean Pritchard ended up giving the creepy figure several nicknames. She called it Fred and Mr. Nobody. But history would come to know the entity by a very different and certainly a scarier name by most standards: the Black Monk of Pontefract. The Pritchards, noticing that these happenings were far from normal, approached their former neighbors, the Pharaohs, and asked them if they had ever experienced anything weird when they had lived there. The Pharaohs would say no. In August of 1980, the Pritchard family had long been suffering from the haunting. Colin Wilson, a well-known writer on subjects including the paranormal and mysticism, visited the family after being tipped off by a local historian, a man named Tom Cuniff. Cuniff had stumbled across newspaper clippings from the late 1960s, alleging that a Pontefract family had experienced poltergeist phenomena. As he dug deeper into the history of the area, he discovered a rather disturbing story, one that he believed could be connected to the haunting itself. In the 16th century, a monk was executed for the brutal assault and murders of several young victims. Upon reading that the family was being stalked by a shadowy robed figure, he put two and two together. During his research, upon discovering
Another
that the family
landscape,
still lived in the
another
same
photo.
house, Cuniff contacted
Hola un
Wilson,
poco.
prompting Wilson to journey to Yorkshire and enter
Just another mountain range?
to see if perhaps
It's
they could
actually
get to the bottom
part of a
of
volcano.
things.
We're
With
going
the
that way.
information provided by Wilson's records, a more detailed version of the haunting
Easy.
chronologically begins to
It's been
emerge.
sleeping for 2.5
According to
years now.
Wilson's records, in August 1966, on that Thursday, most of the family, Joe Pritchard, his wife Jean,
This
and their
is the
12-year-old
east
daughter
side.
Diane
Kane
were on
Oka,
holiday in
land
Devon,
of resources in ancient
leaving their
times.
15-year-old son
Pretty
Philip
developed now.
and Jean's mother
Check it out,
Sarah
though.
Schultz
Not a bad
and
place to
her
live,
sister
huh?
Marie at home. Philip had reached the age when family holidays had lost their appeal. So as most adolescents do, he spent much time to himself, reading in the family garden. That Thursday, while outside, Philip returned indoors to get himself a drink. As he did this, he noticed something bizarre. His grandmother, sitting in the living room, heavily focused on her knitting, was completely oblivious to a gray-hued cloud floating around her. Philip would later say that it was a chalk-like, powdery substance, and from this cloud, it appeared to be falling from, not from the ceiling. The top half of the room was perfectly clear,
Oh,
and yet curious
check out the North
dust
Canyon.
seemed to materialize
That's
from
my
nowhere.
favorite part of the trail.
Weirded out,
Cliffs,
Philip returned to the
waterfalls,
kitchen, only to find several large pools of water
Right hand to the charge of mana.
with no apparent origin. Then heading back to the lagoon, he saw the dust, or a cloud, that continued to fall like a miniature snowstorm, forming a fine white layer of furniture, and even being on top of his grandmother. Rushing to another room to get his aunt's attention, he would bring her out into the living room,
I know an ice cream
where she
shop over
would
the road.
notice the very same thing.
Take a break.
Unsure of just what it could be, she called to her mother to gain her attention and get her out of whatever the cloud or strange powder seemed to be. Heading towards the kitchen to get her cleaned up, she too noticed the puddles of water everywhere. As Marie tried to mop up in the kitchen, new puddles supposedly manifested. She would pull up the linoleum to reveal no leak underneath, and the water wasn't falling from above them either. So just like the dust in the other room, the puddles seemed to have come from
So
nowhere.
how was your
The
bus
odd
ride
drama
discovery?
intensified when
My
after the
mentality
water
was
supply
then when
in the
I
house was turned
got
off
on the
by a
motorcycle in the
helpful
water,
neighbor.
and I'm out
water
at Shoku
company
and
was
the
called
waves
for
are 20-foot
problem.
faces, and I'm watching
Pipes
the
were
bike in the
jammed.
water. I'm thinking,
What normally
this is a
lifted
stupid
once
idea.
again.
And when that wave crashed down in front of me, that was the heaviest moment of my life, and it was 10 times, you know, and even when I jumped the Crew Canal, you know, the fear of facing to jump the canal was worse
might be
than
responsible.
in Vegas. So
After about
Vegas
an
was
hour,
really, and
they
in the jumps
left.
before, but everything's been a
The
prerequisite
mysterious
to get into the next one, to the next one, to
stopped
the next one, and
appearing.
whatever
However,
whatever
before the
skill
day
you want
ended,
to harness
more
is
odd
when you
happenings
sharpen a
were
knife, you see it
reported.
get sharper, and
Sugar and tea leaves were
so
empty from their
it's nice to have a
dispensers
sharp
in the
knife.
kitchen
It's very
and
impressive. I
sprinkled
will
all
say, whenever
across the
I'm sat at the start line
countertops.
in my drift car,
Cupboards vibrated and shook.
I'm like, I know how to do this.
Loud
I know
bangs
you know what you're
were
doing.
upstairs.
You know which gears you're going in, and then like
Which
just
was
like you
usually
heard that little voice
located
like,
on
yeah,
the
what if you don't?
staircase.
What if you don't
It was
downshift at
also
that point? And I'm
mysteriously
like,
transported
it's
half
fine.
the
Everything's gonna be totally fine.
Its pot found sight.
You're famous for pushing boundaries and setting new records. So
Unable
how
to
are you
tolerate
refining
the
your
house
bikes to help you achieve?
Philip and his grandmother
That's a
left
tough
with,
question.
and would spend the
Ultimately,
night with Anna Marie.
I'm working towards my own goals. I think if I
Marie's
was
husband, unhappy
invincible
with the strange
and I'd be young
situation,
forever, I'd probably still be trying to jump further distance records with the bike the way it is. But
with Vic Preston,
for me, there's one goal left for me, and that's all I'm working on. So I'm not here to replicate nothing,
with
to
no
do
intruder being found.
shows around the world. I think those
Nothing
days
else
are
seemed
near
out
gone.
of
I just want to
place
do my masterpiece,
until
right?
they
That's
found
all
a
I'm working on,
glass
is my
shower
masterpiece, and then
on the
I'm done.
floor.
So
And one
I'm
of
not really in
Joe
it
and
for the
Gene
long haul, but I
Purchas's
think
wedding photos.
manufacturers are doing
The
a great
photo
job.
itself,
The bikes are getting better every
slashed,
year. Obviously, we're on the brink of the electric era,
as if
and
with
that's
a
going to change the
sharp
game
knife.
for everyone,
chilled to
whether
his
they like it or not. But
Vic
I think
simply
the exciting
followed
side
the
of it is the
officer
electric
back
side brings a
outside
lot more
the
power. It's
and then
instant.
closed the
And the
front door.
characteristics of the bike
A
are somewhat
30-day
different. So
strive
we're already seeing like
returned
guys like Patrick
to
Evans
his
rides his bike, and when he does a
when
whip,
Gene, Joe,
he's able to
and
get on
Diane
angles
returned
that
from
we've
their
never seen before.
holiday.
Because of the weight
Sarah
maybe of the
relayed the
battery, or
unsettling
It's
events.
because there's less gyro
There was a disbelief
with the engine, so it allows the
first,
bike to roll
but as she
quicker.
spoke,
And then because there's no
everyone would
gearbox,
hear
then you're able to hit the
the
throttle, and
loud,
it does like the full
distinct
rotation of the back wheel, so that when you snap the throttle, you don't have to go through the gears to get the maximum RPM out of the
A
back wheel.
cold wind
So with
blew
the twist of the
through the
thread, that back
house,
wheel goes from stop
almost as if the
to
entity
wide open in fifth gear
had
in a few seconds
perhaps
in the electric version. So
left.
when you're able to whip the
But
bike
that was
upside down,
far
that inertia that
from
the back
what
wheel
would happen.
creates instantly creates that
It was
inertia, so you're
merely
able to kind of
seemingly taking a
use that
break.
to twist your back
According to
shape quickly.
testimonies
So
recorded by
Patrick's been
Collins,
able to learn better than anyone else so far to get his bike upside down and use that electric
in 1960,
inertia that he's created from the rear wheel to
Gene
set him
decided
straight
to
again.
decorate
So that's changing the
Diane's
game,
bedroom.
and I think the
As I've
incorporation of electric
noticed while
bikes is
studying
going to just
his
make
other
differences.
hauntings, construction
But
or
for what I've
redecoration,
done, distance
or essentially
jumping,
changing what
jumping
once
on buildings,
was,
stuff like that.
seems to be a way to disturb
I don't know.
or wake
I
up
wanted to
whatever
raise the bar to a
forces
certain
good or
height and
bad
How can I be
that
of
may be dwelling
assistance?
within a space.
step out, and I feel like I've
Following
done that
this,
for the most
mysterious
part. And there's
temperature
just one
changes
more
began to be
master.
experienced.
You know,
Inexplicable
jumping.
bangs and knocks once again plagued the family, and daily household items, such as in one instance, a paintbrush, began to be flung across the room by unseen hands. One just so happened to barely miss Jean's face by mere inches during the remodel itself. It's even been claimed that Mrs. Pritchard witnessed in the dim moonlight one night as she went to the bathroom a long strip of wallpaper standing on end and swaying like a cobra. When she attempted to grab it, the strip simply fell to the floor, causing a feeling of fear to grip her that one would seldomly experience otherwise. Horrifically, within the same room that was being remodeled, not too long after this occurred, the family vacuum flew into the air, swinging around as if wielded by giant, invisible hands. Screaming, Jean dropped onto all fours and rushed back to her daughter as wallpaper and various objects continued to be thrown towards her. The unseen presence in the house had returned, and it seemed more aggressive than ever, particularly fixated on Diane's bedroom. What followed was described as 9 months of chaos, in which all manner of violent activity was reported. Bangs and thumps echoed from Diane's bedroom with such physical aggression that she occasionally took to sleeping in her parents' room. Ornaments were thrown and levitated,
A playlist
and
is ready
lights
to
flickered
try.
on
Let's go
and
try
off
it.
repeatedly. One day, the entire contents of the family's china cabinet were reportedly hurled onto the floor, with not a single precious item being smashed or chipped in the process. One evening, a particularly chilling incident marked an escalation in the severity of the activity. In Diane's room yet again, the lights randomly went out, and a huge shadow appeared on the wall before her. As she witnessed this firsthand in the hallway, while her mother scrambled with a flashlight to try and turn the
Lots of fun
lights
making
back
this
on.
next playlist.
As the teenage girl
It centers on one
watched,
of the most famous
the
car
heavy
models
oak
of all
hall
time.
stand floated into the air and rushed towards her with incredible speed. In her attempt to escape, Diane tripped and fell, her back up against the
I'm terrible
stairs,
at keeping
with
secrets.
the hall
It's a
stand
Porsche.
being thrown on
Okay,
top of
you
her.
probably guessed that it's the
The weight of the
911.
piece of
Let's
furniture
find out what
pressed
makes
down
this
on her
car
small
iconic.
body,
Head to the
pinning
container
her
in Pearl
against the
Harbor
steps.
and let's get behind the
As she
wheel of a
struggled to
legend.
breathe and free herself, another heavy object, a sewing machine that had been on top of the stand, was also thrown onto her. When the lights finally illuminated the scene, her family rushed to help, but the hall stand was too heavy and firmly positioned to move. Jane and Joe struggled to free their daughter, and yet strangely, despite the pressure, Diane was unharmed. The heavy furniture was merely being held in place by some invisible force, enough to keep her trapped, but not to injure her. When instructed to release her, the force seemingly obliged, finally allowing the hall stand and sewing machine to be removed. The poltergeist then seemed particularly fascinated with Diane Pritchard. In addition to the hall stand incident, it was reported that she was tossed from her bed as many as 4 times in a night by the unseen entity. Her bedroom often turned icy cold. She told her parents it felt as if though someone was present with her, always watching her and lurking just beyond her sight. On one occasion, while standing in the living room combing her hair in front of a mirror, a brass crucifix that she found comfort in
Here we go.
with her faith was thrown from a shelf and struck her in the back, sticking to her skin like a magnet. When the crucifix finally fell away, her mother inspected her and discovered a cross-shaped red mark on her skin between her shoulder blades. The mark left reportedly lasted
So
for
much
days,
diversity with the 911.
showing the strong
We had no
force
choice but to reveal
of
it
which
to
it had
you.
been thrown with. Before long, the house at 30 East Drive gained quite the local reputation. After being featured in 2 Yorkshire newspapers in September of 1968, people either actively avoided the house or sought to engage with the alleged haunting. Those hunters attempted to gain admission into the residence. It was
To the
even
next
reported
objective.
that a group of students who requested permission to camp in the garden were forced to settle for a large round of grassy
Send us some of
ridge
the most
in
interesting
front of the
models.
house.
Try out.
When Jean Pritchard
Shipping from
declined to
Stuttgart, Germany to
request,
Hawaii took a little
however,
bit longer than they
even
thought.
from that
So they've
distance,
actually just
the group
arrived.
claimed to still have heard an assortment of bangs and crashes. Along with this newfound fame, it became commonplace for the Pritchard's family's neighbors to experience disturbances within their
But it's
homes,
also about
as the
elegance and
noises were
style.
reportedly
So
that
when you get
loud
behind the wheel of a
in
911,
the Pritchard
behave
residence.
accordingly.
When all the family's possessions upstairs in the bedrooms were allegedly thrown out of windows and onto the ground below, it was impossible for anyone in the area to deny that something bizarre was happening. Something that no one could truly comprehend or truly understand. Eventually, the family began calling their unwanted house guest Mr. Nobody, later nicknaming him Fred. Despite its attempts to force them out, however, the Pritchard family remained. When a local preacher, a man named Reverend Davy, advised the family that something evil lurked in their home and that they should move, Jane reportedly scoffed at it, asking him, "Why should I be driven out of my home by a ghost?" This was certainly a testament to the family's resolve, no doubt. As the disturbances worsened and the activity further intensified, the family yet continued to persevere. Perfectly good and often newly purchased food would spoil, something strange that became a calling card for the entity, as if whatever it was brought death and decay along with it. Aside from spoiling food, Mr. Nobody, as they called it, would also often smear jam on door handles, would often throw toilet paper all over the house. Fine china plates and cups would be thrown onto the floor, sometimes shattered, and other times perfectly fine. But yet, despite being watched by the dark-robed figure that had plagued them for years, and all of its accompanying terror, the family still refused to be chased away. Even after both Jane and Joe saw the tall, shadowy figure with a hood standing in their bedroom doorway. They had been in bed when they heard the door creak open, and both turned to see the terrifying apparition. Others reported seeing the tall figure in a long hoodie garment as well. At night, frightened family members heard loud, labored breathing outside of their doors. It became clear that Mr. Nobody, or as he was increasingly known as, the monk, was gaining power. It was as if the creature fed off of their fear. The activity would peak yet again one evening when all of the lights went out, and Diane, along with her mother and brother, would experience something dark that none of them would ever forget. As the family huddled together in the dark, trying to find their way around the home, Diane suddenly, as if she had been grabbed by large invisible hands, was forcibly dragged up the stairs by her throat. Colin Wilson, who documented the events in his book, noted that Diane's cardigan was stretched out in front of her, as if the monk was tugging on it with one hand, while gripping her neck with the other. Roused by her screams and gasps for air, Philip and Jean rushed to pull Diane back down the stairs, but they were both repelled, thrown back by what felt like large, clawed hands. Fighting for her life and on the verge of blacking out, as she struggled, Diane fortunately would ultimately be freed, almost as quickly as she had been attacked. Philip later explained that it was as though his thought of trying to touch the presence had caused him to release his sister. When the family inspected the profusely shaking and traumatized girl as the lights turned back on, they would see red hand marks around her neck, To say they were terrified was perhaps an understatement. Although they collectively didn't want to leave their home, they desperately wished for the entity
Clean
to
driving
depart.
gets your bonus.
The family
at
would
the end of each
contact
event.
religious
The
figures.
cleaner you drive,
They would
the
pray
bigger your
and
bonus
sprinkle
will be.
holy water throughout the
So
entire
even during a
property.
race, drive
But despite
clean,
their best
take care of your
efforts,
car,
nothing
and beat
seemed
your
to
opponents
work.
with finesse.
In fact, these actions seemed to exacerbate the disturbances, almost as if they were angering the entity itself with their efforts. One of Joe's friends, recently returned from Scotland, recounted how people there hung garlic over doors and windows to keep out spirits. Fascinatingly, when the Pritchards followed suit, the activity diminished, eventually disappearing altogether. Thus, what began for the Pritchards in August of 1960.
She is pissed off. The Bill's search only really lasted 2 days, and then Dale was just given up. She stated, "Now that it's been a year, and honestly, before I reflected on it, I'm just pissed off. Their attitude was, he was there, he was lost, and what are they supposed to do about it?" Our officials say, however, that rangers in the park were still searching for Dale 3 months later, though it meant more scaled back play. They insist they did this to keep Dale and his disappearance on their radar, so everyone would continue to be on the lookout for him. In 2014, the name returned at least 14 times to the park. As more convinced than ever, their husband had gone missing due to misleading markers on signs of the park, which caused him to accidentally go off trail. She believes he thought he was following all the signs properly. Because they were so confusing, he ended up lost anyway. There is a very interesting account written by hiker and writer named Philip Boots that was written in 2013, which details an experience she had while hiking the same trail on the same day as Dale when he went missing. She writes, "In park, after an hour of walking, I suddenly heard a weird male voice call, 'I need some help.' I thought of the missing hiker. Perhaps after visiting Spruce Treehouse, he needed to trail and run into trouble. I called out several times, but got no response. I thought about going off trail alone. I figured that I'd become victim number 2 if I tried to scream down those next roads. My cell phone had no signal. I hiked back down the trail as fast as I could. When I found the chief ranger, I told him what I heard. Relief washed over his face as he noticed that said, "We thought we heard a call for help in that area yesterday." They quickly began planning to bring in dogs and searchers. I left the ranger station and stood looking at the opposite side of the gate. I heard the call for help. I said, "Sign one there." When I got back to my western Colorado home the following day, I checked the news, thinking that I'd read that the hiker had been found. Instead, I learned that Mitchell Dale's collie was still missing, and now 70 people were looking for him. As I write this, it's been almost 2 weeks since his stall had vanished, and the search has been scaled down. A group of us think he's still somewhere in the park, said Chief Ranger Jesse Fries. We've all heard of planned disappearances, but it doesn't smell that way. The odds of it being found alive, though, are basically 0. Perhaps he fell between big rocks in a place where searchers can't see him. Perhaps wind shifts made the dog miss his scent. Now the question though was this. If Dale was heard calling for help by several different people, the searches were immediately put into place and conducted as soon as possible. And how did no one come across him again, even hear him again, or find any evidence of him at all? If they thought they heard a call for help in the same area just the day before, then why weren't they still out searching there? That makes no sense. What really happened out there in Mesa Verde? The park rangers and others handling this national park know more than they're saying. This is something to think about, definitely. Most likely something we will never find an answer to. Number 4, Aileen Oak Hula. On February 27, 2015, 17-year-old named Aileen Hula, known as Oak to his family and friends, decided to go for a hike along the stairway to heaven. This is actually the haiku stairs in Hawaii. These stairs are basically an extremely steep step structure, which used to provide pedestrian access before the U.S. Navy communication facilities on the island. This is considered one of Hawaii's most dangerous trails, and Moak was last seen boarding a bus in Waiahane to get to the spot which he wanted so badly to climb and see the historical sights. Aileen, who lived on the Big Island, to visit Waiahane, spent some time with his grandmother. His grandmother Martha Bear stated that the team had desperately to climb the trail, which is forbidden on the windward side of the water. She told her grandson she had seen on the news that it was closed down and he wouldn't be able to access it. She told him not to waste his time even trying. Martha said, though, that when David boarded the bus and said he was going hiking, she never thought he was really going there. The steer would have a trail. She figured she'd already told him that he would get arrested if he tried to go nearby, and then it was closed down and pedestrian access was being paved. At around 11 a.m., Daly posted his last ever correspondence with Dixon Prince with pictures of himself, stating that he was finally there, on the trail to hiking stairs, and was next to the climb. He hasn't been seen or heard from since. His family studied the pictures Daly had sent on the trail right before he suddenly disappeared into thin air extensively. And there are some that stand out. These are the ones that are desperately trying to identify. Unfortunately, the more you blow up the images, the more blurry and non-discernible they become. Almost impossible to tell what you're even looking at. Though the family is fairly confident, at least one of them is Daly. They believe they saw a man in the background, far off in the distance of at least one of the other pictures, and theorized that this man was for some reason following Daly and could have somehow led to his disappearance and possible demise. The search effort included local fire departments, drone operators, community volunteers, and even the U.S. Navy, conducting a land and air search to find the young man, all to no avail. A few days after he was last heard from and reported as missing, Monday, March 2nd, 2 hikers reported hearing cries for help. This information led the fire department to continue the search until Tuesday, March 3rd.
I'll send them the bill.
That particular search was suspended the same afternoon, but local volunteers continued to look for Andy, moving through the mountains and finding no sign of him. The hiking stairs have been closed to the public since 1987, but are still a very popular hike with locals and tourists alike willing to risk clients or rest. The stairs are in bad shape after heavy rains and terrible storms and damage to the point that they've gained a somewhat ominous reputation, made not only treacherous, but possibly deadly as well. Some people believe they should be fixed and stored and open to the public, while others say they should be torn down altogether. The fate of Daly Wood is still unknown to this day, as is why he wasn't found despite hikers very clearly hearing him calling for help. Was this actually Daly Wood crying out for help? Again, we will most likely never know. Number 3, Philip Krasick. Yet another unfortunate soul who decided to go out for what seemed like a pleasant scenic hike and ended up not ever being seen or heard again. Even after being heard screaming or yelling for help, is 3-year-old Philip Krasick from Berkeley, California. Philip told his wife he was headed out for a run in the hills near the Palm Ranch State area in Pleasanton Ridge Regional Park, California. He called her once he reached the trail to inform her that it would take him about an hour and to let her know when she had expected back that day. He was last seen running at around 10:45 a.m. that same morning. Philip's wife reported this in the same afternoon and headed out for the run, but he failed to return home and hadn't been in contact with her or anyone else to let them know why he wasn't back yet. This was very unlike him by all accounts. The investigators at Pleasanton stated that they had never come across such a bizarre case. Either got hurt and was only able to call out, or he planned all of this and purposely disappeared, leaving his wife and his life behind and never looking back. This left his family and friends to wonder forever what happened to him in his life. According to his family, the latter isn't even an option. So just was that type of man who loved his life and his family. Philip was supposed to meet with his wife to attend a family gathering in Stockton, California. When he didn't show up at the appointed time, his wife immediately knew something was wrong and called the authorities. Philip was said to have left his shirt and cell phone in his vehicle, and although he was running with a smartwatch, it was unfortunately not equipped with GPS. With temperatures rising above 100 degrees Fahrenheit that day in Pleasanton, many were led to immediately begin to speculate that he could somehow incapacitate on that day, July 10, 2021. Now, this doesn't make much sense to his family and loved ones, though. As Philip was a marathon runner, he was well adjusted to running under such extreme conditions as blaring heat, which might incapacitate most people. His cell phone showed that his route was planned out entirely along very well maintained and manicured trails. Though the park was packed with people that day, not a single credible sighting of Philip was ever reported. Sergeant Aaron Found with the Pleasanton Police Department has handled the investigation said, I can't even speculate on this. It's very, very odd. I continue, Philip Krasick was a family man with 2 small children and also a graduate of the prestigious Harvard University in Boston, Massachusetts. He was also listed as a 3rd-year student at MIT's Urban Mobility Lab.
Driving skills.
Philip went missing on Saturday. The following Wednesday, family hiking in the area reported hearing cries in a canyon near the Solid Post Office. After receiving this tip, 2 people who were involved in the search went out to the area and heard themselves a man screaming for help near the canyon. The experienced hikers in the search and rescue effort set out to go and see if they could hear the calls and perhaps follow them to try to find Philip, who they presumed it was, and bring him safely back to his family. However, once Police arrived at the spot where the Chrysler were allegedly hurt by both police participants. They heard nothing and were able to locate the driver. That same night, search efforts were officially called off. The field hasn't been found as this video may be almost a month later. Theories run wild as to what happened to Philip Chrysler. From demented and murderous drug dealers taking him hostage, to large felines somehow carrying him up trees and feasting, and him just walking off and abandoning his life, which he was said to love so much. However, that's just what these are, theories, as there hasn't been any evidence as to if this was definitely Philip who was heard crying from the shady rail that way today. Again, I did the first two experienced hikers who were sent out and didn't believe it for at least some of the front rail never find him. This is another case that's completely and